excited to have Keith Davis on Banter with the Boys. Keith was a special teams ace, former team captain on the Cowboys, and just a tackling machine at points. So thank you for joining us today, man.
Hey, Mark, I appreciate you having me on today, man. I appreciate that. Yeah, man. Special teams ace, it was cool, man. That was my thing. I was captain for 4 years playing special teams. And I started maybe the last 2 or 3 years. I get a chance to start over 30-something games. So I've had a great time, and I've lived out the dream playing for my childhood team.
To basically get us started with your football career, I want to kind of mention, like, how did you end up at Sam Houston State? Like, how did you choose that school, and kind of what went into that decision-making process for you?
It's a unique story, actually. I can remember going into like my junior year. I was first team All-State safety. I was first team All-State receiver also. And all of these letters started coming in from all these schools, every school in the country. I mean, Florida State, Texas A&M, Ohio State, Nebraska. I'm getting letters from all these schools. And here I am coming from little old Italy, and I'm thinking to myself, like, you know what, maybe I can really do something with this. I didn't, nobody in my family has ever been to college before me. So it was kind of like, I didn't know. It was just uncharted waters for me. I'm getting all of these letters to go to the spring games or attend these games on Saturdays, and to be at these games. Like A&M sent me all these tickets and say, come Baylor, here's Texas. But I knew every Saturday I really couldn't go because my mom would work on Saturdays. And so she was working all week. She taught at the high school, and then she would work cleaning houses and stuff on the weekends. So on Saturday, so I knew it was kind of going to be very, very difficult because we come from humble beginnings. So we didn't have a whole lot. So it was like, I just look at that stuff and put it aside. So I was like, hey, Mom, I want to go to this. It was one of those things where I just kind of just put it aside, like, okay, whatever. But by the time my senior year came, the same thing was happening. I was All-State first team receiver, and I made All-State linebacker also because they moved me to linebacker my senior year. So same thing. All these letters are pouring in from every school in the country. Ohio State flew down, and they come to see me. I never forget, I was working out at the high school. I was working out at the facility, and I just happened to be doing extra that day. And the recruiter comes in from Ohio State, and he's looking. He said, hey, where's Coach Brian Irwin? I say, he's in the office. He said, yeah, I'm here to see a kid, Keith Davis. And I said, oh. I said, hey, how you doing, sir? I said, that's me. And I'm shaking the guy's hand, and the guy's looking like, oh, okay. Well, and he's sizing me up. Then he goes to talk to Coach Irwin. He said, hey, can he play corner? Can he play safety? He said, Coach Irwin just said he can play football. He said he can play whatever you want to play, but he can play football. So at that point, I'm a senior in high school. I haven't taken the ACT or the SAT at this point in time. I'm just really going along, just not really knowing. Nobody's really stressing it to me, the importance of what could happen. So by the time my senior year, my first time taking the ACT was like at the end of the football season by the time my senior year. So all these major schools are like, hey, does he have the scores? Does he have this? And coach was like, oh, no, he doesn't have them right now because he hadn't taken it, but he's going to take the test. Well, I signed up to take the test early in the fall, and my mom throws away my admission slip by accident. She's cleaning up, doing her stuff. So I'm thinking to myself like, oh my God, Mom, my buddies come pick me up. We get ready to go to take the test. And I'm having to tell them I don't have the admission slip. So not knowing that if I still went and showed my ID, I still could have took the thing. I didn't know that at the time. So I was like, no, Mom, you blew it. I was like, oh, this is my test. So I'm all upset at my mom, thinking to myself like, oh, she blew it. So I didn't go and I didn't take the test. So I didn't take the test to the end of December. When I took it, I didn't make the score the first time. So now all the big schools dropped me. So now it's come down between Sam Houston State. There's a purple school in East Texas by the name of, I really don't even know their name because that's how much we don't like them when we play Sam Houston. But that other school is called Stephen F. Austin, just for the record. But it's a purple school in East Texas that we really don't deal with. They were down to them. And then there was Southwest Texas and a couple other schools that were all recruiting me. Well, I had offers to play basketball at this time. I had offers to play because we won the state championship my senior year. I was MVP of the state tournament. I averaged 27 points a game. North Texas offered me, Baylor had offered me to play basketball. So now I'm having these decisions, but I knew my heart was truly on the football field. So I was like, look, I'm going to play football. It's just bottom line. I mean, I love basketball, but my heart was on the football field. So it just boiled down to Sam Houston and that purple school. And I knew there were two or three other guys that come from Italy that played at Sam Houston. So I knew I would be comfortable even there going to Sam Houston to play. But even more so, when I went on that recruiting trip about that to that purple school, they were talking about they talking down on Sam Houston about, how could you even consider them? How would you in there? We beat them this many times or that many times. And we kept going, they're not even on the caliber team. So after that coach said all of that, I said, I knew I was going to Sam Houston after that. Because I was like, since you want to talk like that, I want to play for them. And so that's kind of how the story where I ended up committing to Sam. After that visit with that purple school, I came back, I told my mom, I said, listen here. I said, well, I'm gonna go to Sam Houston State. I said, with the rest of the guys. And so that's kind of how I ended up at Sam Houston State.
That's cool. I like how you keep saying the purple school. You won't name them by name at points. That's awesome.
I don't know their name. I don't know their name.
Now, basically, you were drafted and you were like an undrafted free agent. How was that process for you? Basically, kind of getting your name out, or did you have an agent, or were you fielding phone calls? How did that all work for you?
Man, I never forget that day. I was sitting there and I had an agent, and by the time my junior year at Sam Houston, I was defensive player of the year of the conference. I was All-American. My senior year, I was All-American. So now, the dream is really starting to become a reality. All these recruiters, all these scouts and stuff from these NFL teams are coming in school. They're coming into Sam and they're asking about me. They're pulling the tape. They're looking. They're like, oh, this kid, he has a chance. He can play. And so now I'm talking to my agent. I did my workout, done all the stuff that I could do. All the tape is starting to show. All the film is there. And these teams are starting to reach out like, hey, I'm talking to maybe 7 or 8 teams about maybe being drafted. And my agent is talking to these teams. He said, hey, there's I think one of the teams, it was like Miami, there was like Green Bay, it was Minnesota, there was Dallas, there were the Chicago Bears, there was it was one or two other teams. Can't think of them off the top, but there were like 7 or 8 teams that were really talking about, drafting me. So I'm excited. I'm like, hey man, hey, it's about to happen. So draft day comes. I knew I wasn't going the first day. I was like, okay, probably, hey, I'm cool with that. Saying the first few rounds, I knew that I was going to be a mid to late round draft pick in my eyes, based upon talking to my agent and everything, looking at everything. Well, about the 4th, 5th round comes around, I start feeling like, okay, it should be getting close. If 7 rounds, I'm saying 5th round comes, boom, I start fielding calls. Boom. Cowboys calls, hey, we're looking at maybe taking you this round, stay tuned, what do you think about this? Got calls in, 5th round goes by, boom. They took Pete Hunter. I think I'll never forget that 5th round, they took Pete Hunter. And I was sitting there and I was like, dang, Pete Hunter, Virginia Union. Never forget where he come from, because I was sitting there and I'm looking and I'm like, Virginia Union, man, where is that? What is going on? Who is this? So I look at Pete. I figured out real quickly what they were looking at. Pete was 6'3". He ran like a 4.3 and a 40. They're looking at his intangibles, man. He made some plays when he was in college, man. So I said, okay, that's why they drafted him. Okay, cool. Maybe 6th, 7th round. Cool. After 5th round, when 6th round came, they didn't call my name. At that point, I was done with the draft. They drafted somebody else. I can't think of the name at the moment because I kind of just left it alone at that point. I went to my room. My mom, my family was there. I just went in my room. I closed the door. I just cut the lights off. I just laid down in the bed because I was just done with the draft. I was like, oh, well, man, forget this. I was like, I know I should have been called. Well, draft ended. Now my phone is ringing. Man, I mean, left and right. There's like 4 or 5 teams trying to get me to sign free agent contracts. I never forget, my agent called me and said, hey, man, you have a choice between Green Bay, Miami, Dallas, and somebody else. It was one of the things. I said, man, it's a no-brainer. I said, I'm going to Dallas. I'm going to Dallas. And he said, okay, are you sure? I said, yes, I'm sure. I'm going to Dallas. Because I tell you this, Mark, real quick, leading up to the draft, my roommate, he'll tell you this out of his own mouth. I said, listen, I said, Dallas Cowboys smart. I said, sure, they should take Roy Williams first in the first round. I said, then they'll get me late. I said, bro, and I said, they'll get the best two safeties in the draft and they don't even know it. They have no clue. And that's what I told them was going to happen. So they took Roy late for early, and then they got me as a free agent, and I still feel like they got the best two safeties in the draft. But that's how I ended up in Dallas, and that's kind of how the story went on my draft. I was kind of disappointed I never heard my name called, but at the end of the day, it all worked out for the best.
That was a roller coaster ride for you.
Oh.
And then you're also talking about the tandem of you and Roy Williams. I mean, you kind of look back because I mean, Roy was such a heavy hitter, and just he would just he would punish people.
Yes, definitely. Roy, he believed in punishing the running back, punishing the receiver, the tight end, whoever had the ball. He wanted to make sure that they knew that 31 was coming and he was going to bring the heat when he got there.
How difficult was it for you to adjust to the pro game when you first got started? And you're also, because you're not drafted, you're kind of one of those where you really got to go that extra mile to prove yourself.
Great question. I remember making it there. The first day I was there, and I can just remember, because being a diehard Cowboy fan, I just remember the first meeting. I wanted to get there, and I wanted to be there early. I didn't want to be late, so I was just trying to just fit in. So I go in this meeting room. It's 100 seats in the meeting room, and I'm trying to pick out a seat, not knowing that I know the veterans will be in here at any moment, and I probably should have just stand up and just wait and take a seat when everybody else take their seat and just find one that's empty. But nah, I wanted to be early, so I get there early. I get in the reading room 5-10 minutes before the meeting start. As soon as the meeting start, all these guys start coming in the meeting room. I'm looking, and I'm sitting there. I'm thinking, like, don't sit in the front, don't sit in the back. I say, sit somewhere right here in the middle. So that way, I haven't earned enough stripes to be in the back. I don't want to just sit in the front like most guys. So I just sit right here. So as I'm sitting right here, Mark, all these guys start coming in. I'm like, dang, that's Larry Allen. Whoa, man, that's Flozell Adams. Wow, that's Dexter Coakley. I'm talking about, and I've got this calm face, but inside I'm going crazy because I'm like, these are my guys. These are the guys that I grew up like, whoa. And all of a sudden, as the meeting room fills up, and I'm sitting there in my seat, and all of a sudden there's a tap on my shoulder. He taps me on my shoulder, and I turn around and I look up and I'm like, whoa, man, that's Emmitt Smith. Emmitt says, say, Rook, for future references, I want you to know you're sitting in my seat. I was like, whoa. Out of all the seats in this, I say, how did I sit in Emmitt Smith's seat? So I thought that was the best thing ever. So I turn around, I say, Emmitt. I say, my bad, bro. I said, not a problem at all. I get up immediately, boom, when I go find a seat. So I was like, man, I just got moved by Emmitt Smith. I said, man, I thought that was the coolest thing ever, boy. So as I get in there, I'm starstruck, kind of just looking at these guys, and then we take it to the field, and all of a sudden things start happening, and then I realized that this game was a little bit different than coming from Sam Houston and seeing what I saw at Sam and seeing Joey Galloway firsthand, and I'm having to cover him, and I'm out one-on-one, and I'm paying 7 yards, 8 yards off. Then I back up to 10, and he gets up on me in about 3 or 4 steps, and all of a sudden I turn to run, and I'm still running. He's turned around, and he done caught a comeback, and I'm still running deep. And I knew, like, oh, this is a different animal. So you realize real fast that these guys are playing at a different speed, and you have to adjust real quick.
How long till you put your sort of fandom aside, or like you said, being starstruck? Did you get that out of your system in a day or two, really quick?
Yeah, definitely. In a couple of days, because most of those guys were real down there people, so they made it kind of cool to come up and just say, hey, Dexter Coakley, how you doing, man? Just to talk to Dexter or to talk to Darren Woodson. When Darren Woodson comes up to me, he said, hey, man, I heard a lot about you, bro. Katie, if you need any help, man, I'm in room so-and-so, come. So it kind of took that edge away to be like, whoa, well, he's human, just like I am. So that was cool, man. After a day or two, a couple of days, I was done with that. It was just adjusting to the game. It took me a little longer to adjust to the game than it did to adjust to that.
How competitive was it with you with the other defensive backs for you to kind of stand out and make your mark? Like you said, Darren Woodson's still on the team. They've invested a first round pick in Roy Williams, and they're kind of evaluating who's staying, who's going. How competitive was that for you?
It was very competitive for me because I'm a numbers guy. So I'm looking at, and I understand that if they invested a certain amount of money, that guy's going to be here. I knew they had first round pick in Roy. I knew they had Darren Woodson. He was going to be there. I knew they had a second round pick in Tony Dixon the year before. So I knew Tony was probably going to be there. And then I'm looking at myself, and I'm looking at I think it was like Lynn Scott. There were Deshaun. Can't think his last name right now, but there were like about four other guys so I'm looking at, hey, Lynn had been there. They liked Lynn a lot. Lynn Scott, he was very smart. He could play both safeties. And he was always where he was supposed to be and did the right thing. So Lynn was one of those guys that probably was going to be there. So I'm looking at like, well, how am I going to make this roster? So it was very competitive. You knew the numbers, and I understood the numbers game. It was just about going out, making plays when you got your opportunity, performing your best on special teams, and just let the chips fall where they may.
When it got around to cut down day for you, how nerve-wracking was that for you?
It was real nerve-wracking. We had this guy called the Turk. His name was Bruce. And Bruce would come around. You didn't want to see Bruce coming because you knew if Bruce was coming, and he was coming, and if he talked to you, you knew that the chances are you were getting cut. Now, his whole spiel was, hey, Keith, Katie, how you doing? Come with me, bring your playbook. So as you can tell, I've heard that before. So I'm like, so he was like, so that day on cut day, man, you tried to stay clear from everything, avoid Bruce at all costs, go about your business, go about your day, and just hope that he didn't catch you before you left the building. Because if you got out the building, now you were just waiting on the call. If you got out the building, but if Bruce, so I ended up making out the building at first cut. And found out, they just called me because I was on the final cut. I was on the very final cut that day. So I got a call that day and said that they had released me, hey, and that, that they were very interested in bringing me back to practice squad if I cleared waivers. And so I was like, okay, cool. So I got released, and sure enough, I cleared waivers. And that following Monday, they called and they put me right back on the roster, and I made the practice squad. So I went in and I was talking to Calvin Hill, and I was like, I never forget Calvin Hill. That was my buddy, man. Mr. Hill always looked out for me, player personnel. And I said, Mr. Hill, I said, if I'm on practice squad, it still mean I made the team, huh? He said, yeah, you still on the team, son. He said, you're one player away from being on the roster. I said, oh, okay, cool. So I thought, hey, I was cool with it. Just being on the practice squad, I know I still had an opportunity to play for my team that I grew up wanting to play for. And that meant the world to me at the same time.
What was preparation like for you during the course of the season being on the practice squad? Because like Calvin pointed out to you, you're an injury away, a suspension away from getting that call up. So what was like the preparation process for you early in your career?
It was the same for me as it's always been in my career. From high school to college to the NFL, I always prepared like I was going to be the starter. I always prepared like I was going to start. I mean, no matter what, when I was in meetings, I took notes like I was a starter. I would always study film like I was a starter. I would go home and study like I was a starter because I knew that eventually one day my opportunity would come. And sure enough, the first time I ever suited up, my opportunity came. And by me being prepared and having that preparation, continuing to prepare like I was a starter, it helped me at that moment because I was able to go in that game and I was able to do my job without making any mental errors, without busting any calls, and doing everything that I was supposed to do at that time. And it was just, as an undrafted guy, when they had to throw me in the game because Roy is hurt and everybody else is hurt, and then I'm the last guy over there, and I go in the game and play pretty much the whole second half, and we win the game. And just to have Darren Woodson come up to me while I get to line up with him the first time I ever took the field, and him come up to me after the game and tell me, great job, son, you a warrior, like meant the world to me. I'm like, oh man, what? Woody just said I'm a warrior. Yeah, so just that preparation and that process and just taking the game, taking it serious like that from high school to college all the way to then, it was no different for me. So it just helped me to be ready when my time came.
Now, initially, when you were on the Cowboys, there was Coach Campo, and then
Yes.
things changed up, and Jerry was looking to basically say, okay, we got to go a different direction, and Bill Parcells came in. How much of a culture change, or how much of a bit of a jolt did that give the team having Bill Parcells as the coach, with his personality and everything?
When Bill made it there, it you knew things were changing, and you knew you had to get on board or you won't be on board. Just bottom line. I mean, Bill he ran that organization, he ran the team. Pretty much just you can just say it. I mean, with an iron fist, like, look, this is how it's going to be. This is what I expect of you, and this is what it's going to be around here from this point on. As long as I'm here, this is what it's going to be, and this is the culture. And for me, I mean, it wasn't a change. It wasn't no shock to me or nothing like that. Like I I enjoyed playing for Bill. It was hard. It was tough. You had to have thick skin to play for Bill. You couldn't be in your feelings. You couldn't be, get sensitive when he gets on you in front of the whole team, or he talks, cusses you out there in practice in front of everybody, like literally calls you dumb or something to say something. I mean, like, yeah, Bill was like one of those guys. And so for me, it didn't bother me because his expectations weren't higher than mine. I had my own expectations. So I was cool when Bill made it.
Now yourself, you basically faced some adversity. You
Yeah.
had you had gotten shot and so forth, and obviously, Bill's a stickler for discipline. Can you talk about what happened with yourself getting shot, and then also the outcome and everything?
Sure. Um, when Bill came in, Bill laid out the rules. Bill's laid out places to go, places not to go, things to do, things not to do, uh, and that nature. So I ended up getting shot. That was my second year. That was my second year. That was June 29th of 2003. Yeah, I remember that. Being somewhere that I wasn't supposed to be. And and I knew when that had happened, I already understood the consequences of what could happen. And, because he had laid that out. I was being a friend, picking up a friend from a gentleman's club in Dallas. Went and picked my friend up, man. Altercation broke out in the parking lot. Uh, I ended up getting in a fight with a guy out in the parking lot. Um, One thing led to another. His buddy pulled a gun, shot me. From there, I shot 3 times. Something that, you know, that affected my life at that time in a major way. And I was somewhere where I wasn't supposed to be. So I knew that the consequences that came with that. And that's what happened. Once I recovered, I got back. Bill, they brought me in. Um, they didn't cut me immediately. So it was kind of like, I'm kind of trying to figure it out. Like, Bill already told me that this is where I wasn't supposed to be and this is what I wasn't supposed to do. So I know that they're gonna cut me. That's all I kept saying. I said, they're gonna cut me. Well, they didn't cut me immediately. So if they're not cutting me right now, well, okay. I'm gonna prepare like I'm finna play then. And I just kept preparing. I get shot on June 29th, 2003. We got a report for training camp July the 23rd, I believe, July 24th, somewhere around there. So a week goes by, I still don't hear anything. So I'm still trying to recover because I was shot in my arm and I got shot in the hip. So I'm recovering from injuries. So as the week go by, just straight recovery, trying to get back. That second week in July, I just started trying to prepare for camp. So I prepare for camp just like I'm gonna play and everything. I get to camp, I report to camp because I'm still, second week go by, still no call. Third week go by, still nothing from Bill. So now I'm going about my business as usual. So I don't know, what's gonna happen. So I report to training camp in San Antonio. I show up, Bill, he sets everybody a mandatory weight. My mandatory weight was 207. If you 208, you get charged $300-400 a pound. So my main thing was, let me go. First of all, foremost, I need to pass my physical. so they can say that I'm cleared to play. So I'm trying to make sure my injuries are healed up, wounds is done. So boom, I see the trainers, they see me, they look at my injuries, they look at my wounds. They say, well, looks like it's healing up nicely. As long as the bandage is up in my arm and say it should be okay. When they sewed it up, so boom, I passed my physical. Next thing to do, I passed my mandatory weight. I weighed in at 205. I should have been 207. Cool, I'm good. Last thing to do, still no word. Conditioning test. Conditioning test, 300-yard shuttles. I'm getting out there. I'm like, all right, last thing I got to do is pass the conditioning test and let rest of everything else is playing football. I passed the conditioning test. This is 3 weeks after I've been shot, 3.5 weeks. After I passed the conditioning test, I still haven't heard anything. So now I'm calling my coach, my high school coach. I say, hey, coach, because he wants to know what's going on, how am I feeling? I said, coach, I'm good. I said, man, I passed everything. I passed my physical. I made my mandatory weight. I just passed the conditioning test. I said, that's the hard part. I said, now it's talking about playing football. So in the middle of the conversation while I'm talking to my coach, I get a tap on my shoulder. So I get this tap on my shoulder and I'm talking to coach. I turn around and I look. And sure enough, it's Bruce. So I look at the phone. I'm talking to coach. I say, say, coach. I said, I'm gonna call you back, man. I said, I gotta go. So I hang the phone up. So now at this point, I'm hot. I'm sitting there like, what? I said, you bring me all the way down here? You put me through all of this? I said, then you cut me? Bruce said, KD, come with me, bring your playbook. I said, man, so I'm cussing, I'm snapping now. I mean, like, literally, I said, okay. I said, cool. I said, who I need to talk to, man? Just let me get it. So I go down and see the trainers. Of course, I got to sign a waiver, sign a release, and all that. So I'm pissed. So now I'm on my way back to my room to clean out. And this is what crushed me even more. I'm going to my room and I'm getting my stuff to clean out my stuff to get ready to leave. And as I get off the elevator, first person I run into is Darren Woodson. So I'm sitting there and I see Woody, and Woody looking at me. He called me Diesel. Hey, Diesel, what's going on, baby? What you doing? Where you? Because we're supposed to go to this meeting. And I'm sitting there and I'm coming this way. He looking like, I said, man, I said, Captain, because I call him Captain. I said, Captain, I said, man, they just released me. He said, what? He said, for what? I said, man, I guess because of what happened at the club. I said, because it couldn't have been for nothing else. I said, I passed the physical. I passed the conditioning test. I said, I made my mandatory weight. I did everything I was supposed to do. So that's the only thing else they could have been holding over my head. So, you know, I never got even an explanation from Bill. I never talked to Bill, never heard from Bill about that whole situation or nothing. All I know is after I finished that conditioning test, I was talking to my coach on the phone, telling him I was ready. And that's when they come up and they released me. So that's how that happened.
Can you just kind of walk me through like what happened after that? So like you're getting cut and so forth, but when did did you ever have any contact with Bill after the fact, or did anybody from the organization reach out to you, or basically at that point, just because of what happened, they didn't want to have you back on the team for a period?
That's a great question, because still to this day, after I got released at San Antonio, I can remember driving back home, leaving San Antonio on my way back to my place in Dallas, and I was thinking to myself, like, well, sure enough, I'll get picked up somewhere. Somebody will give me opportunity, this or that. Well, that was in July. August rolls around, September rolls around. I still haven't heard from anybody. I haven't talked to the organization. I haven't talked to anyone. I'm just kind of in limbo. I'm talking to my agent. He's telling me, you know, hey, we're gonna try to get you here. We're gonna try to get you here. Well, the more he did that, the more I'm saying, like, nothing's happening. No word from anybody. So now I'm sitting here and I'm kind of going crazy because I've never not played football before. And I'm like, whoa. And I sit there and I say, well, these bills are piling up. I was undrafted free agent. I'm still over here. I'm not working. I'm not doing it. So at that point, I just kind of like, I just need a change of environment. Just let me leave. And So I left Dallas and I moved to Houston. I go down. I said, well, look, I'll go down and spend more time with my kids, kind of get my mind off of this. I can be there every day, take a little pressure, a little stress off the mother, so I can do these things around here. And I just kind of, so it's September, October, man, and I'm sitting there like, man, nobody's called me. Now I'm starting to kind of fall into this like love to this depression, like, whoa, like I'm tripping, like, man, what am I gonna do? And then I never forget, I was sitting on, this is the moment to change. October, it was almost going into November, and I'll never forget the Cowboys were playing the New Orleans Saints. And I'm watching the game and I'm sitting there on the floor, and all of a sudden my 4-year-old, which Deuce is now 22, which he coaches at my high school right now. He's a coach now, my 4-year-old. I never forget, I'm sitting on the floor and he comes running in the living room, and he runs and he just jumps in my arm, and I'm sitting there and I'm holding, I'm looking at him, and he says, and he looks at me and he said, Daddy, he said, you not play for the Cowboys no more? I was like, whoa. Because at that point, I'm thinking like, I didn't realize you understood at 4, that I was really, like, yeah, like whatever. Like, yeah, my daddy played football. Like, yeah. But I looked at him, I picked him up, I looked at him then because it sent a shock through my body. I held him up in the air and I looked at him. I said, no, son. I said, you know what? I said, Daddy don't play for the Cowboys no more right now. I said, but you know what? I said, I'm going back. And he says, okay, Daddy. He hugged me, he put him down. He took out running. At that point, Mark, I got off the floor. I went down to the training facility. I jumped on the treadmill. I just jumped on the treadmill. And I just sat there and I ran for about an hour, maybe an hour and a half, just running. And all I was doing is just getting the game plan together. I said, all right, worst case scenario, you don't get picked up this year. Cool. We go to NFL Europe, go over there, we play Defensive Player of the Year. We win the championship. I said, we'll be right back where we started. I said, let's go. And so at that point on, every day I take the kids to school. I go get my workout in. I started back training. I had my roommate from college. I would text him because he lived there in Houston area. So I would give it him. He was a receiver. So he'd go run routes with me. He'd go through it. So I had that game plan. I told him the same thing. And sure enough, November goes by, December goes by. Nobody calls me. January comes. The phone rings. Hey, KD. Hey, what's up? Hey, this Steve Karakoff, Dallas Cowboys. Hey, what's up, Steve? He said, hey, man, what are you doing? He said, man, Bill wants to bring you back. Where are you? And I said, Steve, man, I'm in Houston. I said, I just want to play football. He said, well, what do you think about going over to Europe if you go? I said, Steve, I just want to play football. Well, how soon can you get up here? Because he wants you to get up here this day. I said, Steve, I can't come today. I said, I can be there on Monday. He said, okay. He said, man, well, I'll tell Bill, just get up here as soon as you can. And that's how it happened. So I get back to the facility on Monday. First person I meet is Bill. First time I've talked to Bill since forever. They ain't even talked to him when I was cut. So I walk in, so now I'm kind of looking at him and I'm like, I'm really kind of pissed still because he cut me. Oh man, so I'm thinking all these things in my head. And I think, he said, you look at me, you listen well. He said, son, doing what you do, you can play in this league for 10 years. 10 years. He said, but you keep your nose clean. He said, and you listen here. I'm going to send you to Europe. I don't know how this is going to turn out. He says, but at the end of the day, you go over there, you do well. You don't get in any trouble. Don't you get up either. I said, all right, Bill, I just want to play football. All right, son. Yeah. And so that was the end of that. He sent me to Europe. Sure enough, we go to Europe. We won the championship just like I knew we would. I was defensive player of the year of my team. I finished second in defensive player of the year in the league, which I should have been. Still mad about that. Yeah. But in any event, we won the championship. We came back, and sure enough, man, it was right back where we started.
How difficult was it for you the transition to go to Europe? Especially you're a Texas guy, and that's what kind of what you knew. So you're going over to a different country, different food, different way of life. How was that for you?
Oh my God. It was so difficult for the first probably month. I was there from March all the way until June, to the middle of June, almost to the end of June. That first month was so rough because first of all, I was so high strung. I was so pissed for having to even go over there to leave my kids, to leave my family, to have to go over there for this long. But I wasn't above it because I just wanted to play football. So, but I was so stuck in my own world that I was like, I'm just gonna come over here. I'm smashing everybody that's over here, and I'm going back home. And that was just my mindset. I was like, I'm not. So when we got there, they tried to get us everybody to stay up because they wanted you to get acclimated to their time. And they were like, hey, we're gonna go here, we're gonna go there, and I wasn't having none of it. So I was just wanting to just buck in the system. I'm like, nah, man, I ain't going out there. I'm gonna stay on this bus and I'm gonna go to sleep.
Yeah.
I'm not going anywhere. I'm not. So I only got off the bus to take the team picture. I slept the rest of the time. I get back and I paid for it for a whole month. I paid for it. Me not doing that, my game suffered. I was playing terrible the first 3 or 4 games. I I would never go to sleep till 2, 3, or 4 o'clock in the morning. Meeting started at 7. I'm sitting there while everybody else is on their time zone. I'm still on Texas in the United States.
You're on Central Time Zone.
I'm on Central Time Zone. So I'm all over the place. So it was very difficult that first month just because of my stubbornness.
Was it a 6 hour difference for you?
8 hours.
Oh man.
8 hours. The 8 hours difference right now. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. I mean, man, it was brutal. Those first 3 to 4 weeks that month, it was brutal. Because I would just get comfortable and go to sleep by 3, 4 a.m. 5, and the alarm going off at 6. Gotta get up, go meetings, gotta go to practice, gotta go. So here I am literally practicing on 2, 3 hours of sleep. And I'm out there just like all over the place. Yeah. But eventually I got on and the rest was history.
When you came back to the Cowboys, did you feel like you would kind of earn Bill's respect from being able to go to Europe and kind of do what he asked and everything?
I think Bill saw the work that I did in Europe. He saw that I didn't get in any trouble. I came back. I was focused. I was ready, and I stepped right back in here in Dallas and picked up right where I left off in Europe. And it's crazy because, Mark, I think about it. I played an 11-game schedule in Europe. We had 4 preseason games before that, before we went out. So we're looking at 15 games. I come back in Dallas, and then Bill gives us 1 week off. 1 week. I come from Europe. I got 1 week when I went to Europe the whole time. And I'm right back in for off-season program and the training and getting ready for training camp. Go through training camp, playing the first 4 preseason games. Now here I am looking at 19 games. I'm on the 19 games while everybody else is on. I'm going through that. I get hurt probably maybe 6 or 7 games in the season, maybe halfway through the season. We played Cincinnati, and I had a partial tear in my hip flexor. So I have a partial tear in my hip flexor. So right now I'm at 20-something games, 25, 28 games. I end up playing in that year 33, 34 games in that 1 year. That's almost 2 full seasons of NFL football. And like Bill saw that this dude is tough. He was like, look, I think more than anything, Bill knew how tough I was and how much I love football. I think that gained his respect more than anything.
Now you were with the Cowboys for quite a few years, and you saw like sort of the rebuild. transition with Bill. Then later Wade Phillips coming in, and so you were under different leadership and different things you went through. What was the hardest loss you had to endure? Like out of all the games you played, which game still to this day eats at you and pisses you off?
Right here.
Yeah, that's the one I thought you were going to say, but I was going to let you answer that and just shut my big mouth.
Yeah, right there.
Yeah.
You see that picture?
Yeah.
Man, listen, bro. There's no way we weren't supposed to be in the Super Bowl that year. There's no way. That's the game that we lost to the G girls.
Yeah. I remember it. It stings. I hear you.
Oh man.
And then also you're sitting next to Terry Glenn, and rest in peace.
Oh
he's
my God.
He's no longer with us.
That makes it even more tough because that was my guy. Like Terry and I were, man, that was my boy, man. Me and Terry, we go bowling together a lot. We just hang out, man. Just Terry was good dude. It's very unfortunate. Very, very unfortunate.
Do you kind of look back and say at times that you kind of you think a higher power or whatever that you're still with us? Because yourself, I mean, you went through the situation where you had that altercation in the parking lot, and then you had another situation where you were driving, and basically, you were basically shot again.
I was shot again, and I definitely know there's a higher power. It's by the grace of God that I'm talking to you today. I know it's not me. I just know that there were a lot of people praying for me. Like my mother, my grandfather, my grandmother, and them, all of them, they're God-fearing women, and they always say prayers over me. So I understand that definitely it's truly a blessing to even be here. Definitely going through the stuff that I've been through, being shot 5 times total, 3 times, the first time, 2 times, and not only twice, but being shot in the head, like in and out the head, and just to be here and to have, I don't want to say a sound frame, but somewhat of a sound frame of mind.
How difficult was it for you to recover mentally and physically from both incidents?
I think the biggest hurdle to me was mentally. Physically, when I got shot that second time, the bullet was lodged in my leg before a week, before they could remove it. So I practiced the whole week with the bullet in my leg, because once I found out, I asked the doctors what was going on. They said, look, we can't move it right now because we'll run the risk of it traveling up your leg. We have to let it sit, and we'll remove it in about a week's time. So once they told me that, I said, well, listen, it doesn't hurt like that. I say, can I practice or can I play with it? And they were like, I don't see why not. They say, you don't run the risk of anything else. I said, well, cool. Because I knew how Bill Parcells was. If I was going to miss practice or if I was going to do this or anything, I knew I would run the risk of maybe being cut again. So to me, it was like a no-brainer. I was backpedaling in the hospital with a bullet in my leg. I went down right after I'd been shot that second time. I said, oh yeah, I'll be ready. Cool. I'll be ready for camp. So leading up to that whole week, I practiced with that bullet in my leg, and we're getting ready to scrimmage in the preseason game, and we're getting ready to scrimmage the Minnesota Vikings. So now I'm suited up for the game. I'm ready to go. I'm on the field like, hey, I'm playing. I'm finna play with this bullet in my leg, and hey, I'm finna lay it on the line, and it's finna happen, whatever's happening. So Bill comes up to me during stretch. And now I done went through all week of practice, and I'm sitting there and I'm ready to go. I'm salivating like, yeah, forget my first taste of action. And Bill said, hey, you're not playing. What? Man, I done went through the whole week of practice with the bullet in my leg. You gonna tell me, you gonna get me all the way out? You're not playing. They're gonna do surgery on Monday. They're gonna remove the bullet. Yeah, it ain't no sense of you being out here. So you wanted to see if I was just gonna go through everything. So it's almost like Bill is a psychology major, man. So Bill is that type of guy who's like, I'm gonna see. And What he saw was, hey, somebody who's still willing to go out there and do what he needed to do to make the team because he loved the game that much.
Now, what was I going to say? You were named a team captain later on in your career. Being such a diehard Cowboy fan growing up, and just kind of like you took such pride in being having that star on your helmet. What did that mean to you?
Um, that's the biggest honor of my whole career, right there. I was captain for 4 years, and I didn't ask for it. I earned it. I showed up to work every day. I gave everything I had every day, and they knew I was prepared and I was accountable. Like, if you saying that, hey, if I'm going to war, I'm going with him, that was the ultimate respect for me. Like, they say, who's going to be the captain? And they voted me captain. I didn't ask for that. I didn't know. I was just doing about my business. I was going about my business. But it just let me know that I had earned the respect of those other guys by the way I went about my business.
When you look back at your career, which gamer that you played in are you the most proudest of your performance?
That's a good question, Mark. Man, to me, like every time I stepped on the field, it was a blessing. I don't, I don't know one game that just really singles out. I can single out more than the other because, like, I'm a kid who lived out the dream every time I stepped on the field. So my whole thing was give everything I had because at the end of the day, it could be taken away from you in snap in an instant. So to me, I just laid it out on the line every time with the way that I played and the most respect that was given. The most respectful thing that I hear a lot of people that I talk to say to me is that they love the way I played the game. Like that's like the highest respect to me. Like, man, every time I saw you, you were giving everything you had. And that's the ultimate respect for me. But I can't just pinpoint a game because I just gave everything I had every game.
I used to take for granted some of the special teams, like when Cowboys are punting and this, that, the other. And I was just like, Keith's out there, man. He's gonna make the tackle. Like, I mean, there's certain, times I wasn't that worried or it was a crucial part of the game. And I'm just like, you're gonna be right in the middle of that mix and making it happen. So it's funny, like you said, you get that feedback from other folks. But yeah, I mean, there was times where I was thinking, you know what, Keith will take care of it. He's gonna clean it up and it'll be good.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. Because that's the same way I thought. I said, I'm gonna make every tackle. I don't care. I'm gonna make every tackle. Every time you punt the ball, every time you kick it off, I'm gonna make every tackle. But a big reason I always play special teams like that because, like to me, more, I figured if I played well enough on special teams and I went hard enough in special teams, eventually they let me do something else. And that's eventually what happened. Because the way that I played special teams, that's the only way that I earned the right to be able to start for 30-something games in the NFL, just by the way that I played special teams. That's why they gave me an opportunity.
Now yourself, when your career was coming to an end and it's winding down, how difficult was that for you? Because some people have have a tough time adjusting to life after that sport they've played, and yourself being an athlete. Was that a hard transition?
It was difficult. Yeah, it's very difficult, man. You go from, I mean, every Sunday, there's 70, 80, 100,000 people, either cheering you or against you. I mean, you go from that rush to just you're a normal person now, just walking, walking the streets of America. So it's a whole different, it's a whole different perspective for somebody who yearns for that, who really, who gets up for that. Like, man, I love to come down the tunnel and get that smelling sauce and get a good smell and get a good whiff when we going into a hostile environment. And these people, when we go to Philly and they're booing and they got kids sitting on their necks and they're flipping us off when we come in and they burning TO jerseys in the car. I mean, man, you look like I yearn for that. So that rush right there is so hard to get ever again. So it's like for a lot of guys, man, you always chasing for that rush. So that's why you see a lot of guys that fall into gambling or to or get addiction to, you know what I mean, to narcotics and stuff like that, like those pills and because even those things they gave you. Man, I took a Toradol for every game. Toradol, Tylenol, and an Advil. That was my concoction for every game. For every game. That was pop, pop, pop. Or some days I got to take the needle. Or I got, yeah. It's just, so all of those things. And you throw in just the locker room itself, just the locker room. You miss, the relationships that in the locker room, you can never duplicate that. It's nothing. It's like it's so hard because we have so much fun. You talk so much. I mean, like in that locker room, that's like where we can all just be one. We can all be ourselves and everybody else. Because you go out on the streets, everybody put you on this pedestal. Or this person is here. This person is here. No, but in the locker room, we're all one, fighting for one cause. So it's hard, man. But most people transition. That's a hard transition for me. It was difficult the first probably year or two because just understanding I wouldn't go to a game for a long time. For a long time, I wouldn't go to a game for at least 3-4 years. The first game I ever went to for the Dallas Cowboys, which is what I said I would always do. I'll either go to the game if my kids say, "Hey, Dad, take me to the game. I want to go see the Cowboys play." No problem. I would never deny them. Or they put Darren Woodson in the Ring of Honor. When they put Darren Woodson in the Ring of Honor, that was the first game I ever went to in the new stadium since I stopped playing. And that was some years. That was like 3-4 years, maybe, since I stopped. When they put Woody in the Ring of Honor, that was my very first NFL game since I stopped playing.
That's deep because I know how much Darren Woodson meant to you. So that's cool.
That's exactly why. That's exactly why I went. Yeah.
Talk a little bit about what you've been up to since your playing days, some of the different things you're involved in, and then also you went back to school and honored a promise to your mom. So can you talk about a few of the things you've been up to since you walked away from the game?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I did get my degree in 2018. Went back. I had I had promised my mom I would graduate and I would get my degree. Um, I made her that promise my senior year in high school, but I also had promised her I was going to the NFL at that same time. And she was like, "Baby, I want you to do that." She said, "But what will make me more proud is if you just go ahead and graduate from me." I said, "Mom, I promise you I'm gonna graduate." I said, "But I'm gonna go to the NFL. I'm gonna take care of you." And so I kept both promises, and so I'm grateful to be able to have accomplished that. Now, man, I'm retired. Um, I had 5 kids, man, 4 boys and 1 girl, and all of my kids are pretty much older because I had a lot of obstacles coming up as a as a young lad. I had my first son when I was 17. I had my daughter when I was 18, 19. I was 19. Then I had Deuce when I was 20. And then they had my first son, he has an older brother. So that was mine too. So it's like I had 4 kids before I'm like literally 21, 22 years old. So, I'm having to really get on my grind. And then I have an 11-year-old that occupies all my time right now, and that's Noah. So being retired now, man, just looking at my kids, they've all graduated from college. They all have degrees. They all have their own jobs. They're all very successful. None of them have kids like I did at their ages. So I'm grateful and I'm super proud of that. And so my wife, she owns we have our own beauty salon. We just opened our own beautician school. Our school, the first school, we just opened a couple of weeks ago. Actually, that's what I was telling you. It flooded. The first time we were supposed to be doing this, it got a flood. I'm doing that. I just try to stay out the way, man, because I still have my good and my bad days dealing with the concussion stuff, man. Most days, I don't like to be around a lot of people. Sometimes as you can see, I forgot our interview a few times just because if I don't have reminders set and people don't, my wife don't, she's not aware of what's going on. Sometimes I'm all over the place. So, but I'm grateful, man, to wake up each and every day. Hopefully, just try to get my walk in and keep some little cardio, some semblance of just being active a little bit if I can. And I just take it one day at a time, man, and stay out the way.
That's wonderful. Is there anything that we didn't talk about that you would like to mention, or anything else you want to tell the Cowboy fans? Anything in closing?
Man, Mark, I always, appreciate being able to share a little bit of my story or share a little bit about my life, because hopefully it inspires someone out there. It'll let somebody else know that, you're going to have a lot of obstacles in life, but you'll always have an opportunity to overcome it as long as you're still alive, as long as you still have breath in you, you still have a chance to make it right. And if you have a chance to make it right, do everything you can in your power to make it right. Bust your tail and just know the dreams do come true. Just know you can be whatever you want to be as long as you set your mind to it and you understand that it's not impossible. It's not going to be easy, but it's not impossible. And if you continue to work hard at it and you continue to sacrifice and do the things that you need to do to accomplish it, you can be anything you want to be in this world. I'm a living example of that. I'm living truth to that. I'm truly grateful by the grace of God that I am in the position that I am in, and I was able to live out the dream and play for my childhood team, the Dallas Cowboys, and wear that star and line up beside my favorite player, my all-time favorite player, Darren Woodson, who, by the way, should be in the Hall of Fame. And I'll say it again, they need to put him in the Hall of Fame. And I'll say it again, put Darren Woodson in the Hall of Fame. Go Cowboys, man. Cowboys Nation forever. I'm always going to be a Cowboy forever and twice on Sunday.
Perfect. Man, I appreciate you doing this. Thank you for taking the time to, share your story, be a guest, and good luck with your health and everything. Like you're talking about the concussions and some of the, different things you've had to go through. But I wish you nothing but the best for you and your family.
Thank you, Mark, man. I appreciate you. Thank you again, man. God bless you and yours. And hey, man, hopefully we can do this again sometime.